Right, guys, I am with Lynn Morehouse, and we are talking about official Strongman Games 2023. Going to be an exciting year of Strongman. The OSG official Strongman Games gets bigger every year. Last year, we had a few issues when we were there. Obviously, it must have been a big challenge. You've got a new venue this year. Hopefully, nothing like that's going to be an issue. Lynn, you are a man that does a million jobs. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. Got to admit that it's always a challenging thing when you announce the online qualifier and then, of course, the events for the official Strongman Games. We try to have it planned sooner and sooner every single year, and it's a lot to manage. You kind of hit on last year. We had some unexpected challenges with the weather, and so the beginning of the year really was. It had been 3 years at Daytona Beach. Is it time for a change? We all like the weather when it cooperates, but when it doesn't, we were pretty close to disaster there. So, the first part of the year definitely was spent towards looking at new destinations to take athletes to. And I'm very excited about Charleston, West Virginia. I think people will love the Coliseum. And one of the nice things about the area is we'll be able to take over the town. That was sort of the whole thought process is you fly in, you've got free shuttles to the airport, walking distance to the venue, lots of restaurants, and everyone will know that Strongman's in town.
Yeah, I was having a look on the website, and it seems like a good location to run a competition like this.
I think so. The venue's excellent. It checks all of the boxes that we need. One of the things that I look at is also, just flight costs to the area. Daytona Beach had an international airport, but it was so expensive to fly to that one. No one used it. Everyone went to Orlando anyway, so that doesn't really help anyone. Whereas with this airport, the prices were very reasonable to be able to fly in. The hotels are going to be much cheaper than it was in Daytona Beach. Everything's still nice walking distance. And I know people are concerned about, snow and all that kind of thing, but it kind of depends on the year. If I look at this year, this past year in December, they wouldn't have even had snow on the ground. So, and I'll take snow over hurricane any day.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to be dealing with any more hurricanes.
Yeah, that was pretty stressful for everyone, and I'm looking forward to having 3 days again instead of 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, OSG has become very successful. Obviously, the top 3 in the Open qualified for World's Strongest Man and went on to do very well at World's Strongest Man, 2 of the athletes making the final. So I think it just shows the pedigree of this competition, but not just in the Opens as well. I mean, you look at some of the athletes in the various different weight classes, the Masters, the over 50s. It's kind of, some of these names. I mean, Ben Donnan in the under 80s, that guy is a freak. Rhiannon Lovelace in the under 64 kilos. Obviously, Masters, you've got Zadrunas still competing. Mark Felix doing the over 50s. It's a huge weekend of action and an amazing opportunity to see the next big names in the Open class, because every year your winner of this competition has gone on to do very well in Open level Strongman. And when I was doing the commentating last year, I was absolutely blown away at the standard of the top 10.
Mm-hmm. It really grows in number of athletes as well as the caliber every single year. It's pretty surprising when you realize there are people who've competed at World's Strongest Man that did not crack the top 10 at OSG. So, that's certainly showing the level. I would also say the online qualifier follows that same pattern where we get more athletes every single year, and the cracking into that top 10, 15, and 20 is harder every single year because it's gaining in popularity. People are realizing that, it is a great contest to be at. We have, we're growing in prize money every single year, but we're also just the title is meaning more and more. It was one thing to have the title of being world's strongest. It's a whole nother now to kind of be like, ooh, I was a finalist. I was in the top 10. That's become a thing to post about on its own. And I really like that trend.
No, it's been amazing. I mean, you mentioned the online qualifier. I think we should talk about that first before we get into this year's competition, because you've just announced the online qualifier is opening up. When does that need to be done by? What's the dates that people have to get their entries in for?
Well, because the official Strongman Games is going to be the first weekend of December instead of its typical first or second weekend of November, we're going to give athletes till the end of August. So they have 2 full months, beginning of July all the way to the end of August. And, I always get questions at the last minute is like, okay, does that mean, September 1st, or does it mean the last day of August? And in many ways, it's like, I don't know. The website is, using UK time, but I think we've got it set where it goes until Pacific time in the US. They've got till end of the month. And I just tell people, don't wait to the last minute, because the website starts bogging down. And some of those uploads, especially if they're longer videos, can really have a hard time. I get a lot of feedback on the different types of events. And, if you don't mind me kind of explaining some of the thought process behind it, one of them is when you try to upload these 15-minute videos, a lot more people have issues with it. And so we have some technical side of doing long videos. So if people are wondering why we don't have really long, challenges, a big part of that is the video length. But also just, I've got kind of a little secret with the online qualifier is if I'm trying out a new event and I don't really know how the world is on something, I can get a pretty good idea of the if I do something like a 1 rep max, I can get a good idea of the spread of everyone's ability by making the online qualifier event something that is useful to me for choosing events for OSG and the weights. And so sometimes I'll do that rather than just say, oh, it's going to match the events for OSG directly. Sometimes it's, well, maybe I just want to go and see where we're at with something. And
you sound like some evil genius right now, Lynn.
Well, it's nice to know, right? And for example, like this year, there are 3 events as usual. We eventually want to update the website to allow some more flexibility. We've had tons of ideas, but it's a small team, and so we're doing the best we can.
Just out of interest, just from my personal point of view, I've just been thinking about it. How many videos do you guys have to deal with?
Well,
how many entrants are you actually getting for the official Strongman Games?
I think last year we were at about 300, and then it's times 3 videos. It's 900, and once you have people weighing implements as well as showing weights, and the number of people who do these videos alone is staggering. You don't realize how hard it is for some of them to do it. So they're doing a lift, and then as they're breathing heavy, trying to go through the process. So the video length on average is 5-6 minutes long. So you go 900 videos times 5-6 minutes. We'll say 6 minutes. That's 10 videos every hour. That's 90 hours. So we try not to make it so that every single little thing has to be reviewed with intensity. You want it to be, okay, I count 1, count 2, count 3, not, okay, pause, check the hips. Otherwise it's just not going to be feasible. But
you're hoping for athletes to be genuine with what they're doing. Yeah. And, sportsmanship needs to be, the problem is if you kind of post fake videos, you will get shown up when you compete.
Well,
and we've seen that happen before. We've
absolutely seen some people perform pretty poorly compared to what the expectations were. I would say I have caught someone legitimately using a different person for a different lift. That was the shocking one for me. And, very surprised when things like that happen. But no, the Strongman community, we get messages, people go and look, so even if, we're not reviewing every single video until the end, all of you are. and they're telling us. So, you know,
so if you feel like you have to look at a video a little bit more closely, you will do.
Yes, 100%. And we actually have now gotten to the point where there's more than just me looking at videos. And so we'll do kind of a red, yellow, green kind of thing. It's like, oh, yellow, we need a second opinion on this one, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, because we're still looking at things at the very end, we're trying to always give the benefit of the doubt to the athlete. We will reach out and say, hey, you know, you forgot to measure this height of a platform. Can you go to the gym and measure that platform for me? Rather than lose potentially a top 10 athlete because of a technicality. And
Sure.
I know that everyone who's in the 11th, 12th place doesn't like that, but we're not in it to, you know, we're in it to find the right athletes, not necessarily find who reads the rules the exact best, especially when we
yes, you've got a lot of foreign athletes that their English isn't their first language, you know, and this is the great thing with OSG and the online qualifier. Anyone in the world can upload and have a chance to come and eventually either compete in their weight class at OSG or eventually potentially get to World's Strongest Man.
And think about Benjamin Donan as an example. Who would have thought France, right? Just go back a couple of years you know, without that opportunity, because they didn't have large established contests that would have made us aware to be able to have direct invites. There's a lot of athletes that have showed up because of this online qualifier. It's really proved that it works.
Yeah. Well, talking of it, we should look at what events you've put down. 3 events, starting with the overhead press 1 rep max lift. Any bar from the floor, clean it, press, jerk, strict press, push press.
Mm-hmm.
Just get that weight from the floor to overhead.
Yes. And so, you know, part of this is kind of cluing in on what implements people choose. Like even for yourself, would you do a barbell for a clean, or would you go to something more like, you know, an axle or a log that you might be more familiar with?
Sure.
You know, granted, I don't think anyone's going to do a circus dumbbell, but in general, you know, trying to find out what implements people believe give them the greatest advantage kind of helps. And for someone like me, that lets me know also that if I'm ever programming one implement over the other, I know that the weights are slightly better for athletes. So if I choose instead of an axle to do just a barbell clean and press, I might know, because of things like the online qualifier telling me, that everyone feels a little more comfortable with that. So let me notch it up just a little bit, and I can start to get some baselines for this division. I don't think, sometimes people expect that we think they should be peaking for this event. And I'm flattered that people will do a full training cycle just for the online qualifier. That's not really the intent, but I understand why people will do it, because it's gotten so competitive. But in general, you know, we're looking at what people can just throw into their normal training. We don't want something that's so crazy that you have to change your entire program.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because some people will peak for it. Others will just try and put in some numbers.
Yeah.
And some of the ones that maybe just put in some numbers will be looking to peak for the official Strongman Games. So it's, you know, I understand everyone's thought process, and, you know, I understand people just want, because you're going to get a complete mix of athletes. You will get athletes that just want to be there. Yeah. They just want to achieve to be able to say to their friends they're competing at a world championships is a big deal for a lot of people, especially with the masters classes, some of the bodyweight classes. It is a huge deal just to say you're competing at world championships. But for some of the athletes, they take it extremely seriously, and they are there to win.
Yes.
And that's a different mentality again. So there's definitely a different thought process that goes through. Second event, this is an interesting one. The max farmer's hold for 5 seconds. Why 5 seconds?
Because.
And why just a hold?
So, you know, this was a fun one to kind of debate, because realistically, I kind of just wanted what you could pick and hold for a beat. But that's going to cause problems on judging. So, even on the rules, I state you may want to plan for like 7-8 seconds because your time starts at lockout and people tend to count fast. All those kinds of things, don't let yourself, have a problem there. But go back to the video review. If I now need to, when I'm watching something, go and be like, pause, okay, I'm at second 13. Now let me go, oh, he did 29 seconds. That's a problem. Where 5 seconds, the chance for athletes having problems is just less, in my opinion. And I am going for, hey, let's actually do a grip test here. I would have loved to do a grip test with other implements, but we're trying to be as open as possible. And so farmers is frankly more common than frame, and certainly more common than like a Denny set of Denny handles or any of those kinds of things. And so if we're trying to allow anyone to partake in this opportunity, farmers seem suitable. And we've got a good degree of difference in the farmers we're allowing people to go and do. But I want to go and find out how's the state of grip in strongman. And this is going to be a great test. 5 seconds is just enough that we know that it's near maximal, but you held it long enough that that lockout happened and everything else.
So just as a competitor, I know you're going to be inundated with questions on all these things.
Always.
So maybe we can try. I'll just try and think of a few that I might question, or I coach a lot of people, so I'll think of the questions that they'll ask me. First question, I think, looking at the farmers, is there a height that you need to lift from, or are we really just testing grip and not so much the actual lifting power on this one, with having the deadlift coming next?
Yeah, I put in the rules, the farmer's handle height can't be any higher than 16 inches or 40.5 centimeters. So it still requires a deadlift. That's still relatively low. But once again, I don't want to have something different for women versus men necessarily, if I can get away with it. So you've got a 5-foot athlete, 16 inches might not be that big of a pull. Where if I had allowed someone to go to 20 inches, then they might not even get off the ground, and it would be unfair. Just kind of a hip hinge kind of situation there. So it's still a deadlift. I'll give it that, but I am expecting that, like in the United States for 105s, it seems like that 300-pound farmers was always kind of like that normal marker for a competition. I have a feeling we're going to see 400, 500 pounds per hand come up and really kind of shake what we think people can do with farmers and frame.
Oh, absolutely. I think we'll see well over, I think we'll see a few people closing in on the 500, maybe even go over it. Yeah. I know from my personal experience of what I've done on farmers, what's possible. I've seen people like Kevin Ferris do some ridiculous lifts on farmers. So it'll be interesting to see what's lifted on those. I think we're going to see some big numbers.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. And I'm hoping it is going to be very informative for me. This is an example of something where, I'm trying to actually, cast a wide net and get kind of a survey of the strongman space right now, because it directly affects what I'm doing for the official Strongman Games events.
Sure. And then we move on to, one more question on the farmers. I never care about this question, but I know people will ask, is there a certain thickness that the farmers have to be within?
No, I didn't put anything on that because honestly, you've done the Denny and the nickel. Sometimes smaller is not better, when it comes to maximal grip. I think that a prime example is Mark Felix on a lot of the axle records, but he does not hold the nickel stone record or the Denny stone record because there's a difference. So I really don't have a preference there. If someone, has a set that works for them, that's just fine. And it also reduces one more thing for the athlete to measure.
Cool. Because, different farmers feel different. And, you can have an easy, we've got 2 sets in our gym. One is much easier than the other.
Is that because of height or the handles?
Actually, the handles. One is knurled and one is smooth. And the smooth one is actually a higher pickup, but it's a harder set. Everyone kind of struggles more on that one than they do with the slightly lower pickup, but better handles to hold on to.
It reminds me, I did a farmer's that was made out of rebar for the handles. Hell of a grip, but you always bled. And so I didn't even know people did knurled farmers. That seems like masochistic to me. You know, it just, you'll get the video, but you got one try because you're going to lose everything. So, you know, be careful out there, people.
So last event for the qualifier is the 2-rep max deadlift. Why 2 reps?
I didn't want to do another 1 rep. And we just, we've done some 3 rep and 5 reps in the past. A big thing for me is I didn't really want it to be a max deadlift. I don't want people going for that one absolute blackout attempt. So I want them to be able to have a second one. This also allowed us to remove the touch and go. So we had touch and go in the past just because technicalities, you know, when we're reviewing videos.
I was not impressed when I saw that you allowed touch and go for the European qualifier.
Well, you know, on 5 reps, sometimes you just don't pause that much on the bottom. And then, you know, we have to hear people saying that one wasn't there, so he didn't do 5 reps. We try to eliminate a lot of that, especially for an online qualifier, because there's no judge giving people down commands. They're doing this by themselves sometimes, and they only find out if they've broken the rules near the end, unless we happen to message them ahead of time because someone's given us a little notice. So we try to be as kind as we can. But I think with a 2-rep max, it's really safe to say, all right, no touch and go. You need to release the slack out of the bar. Whereas with a 5-rep, I don't know, people get going. And it really is a shame when you have to disqualify a lift where someone's doing great, but they just didn't pause very well, or they didn't get the slack out of the bar. So, you know, that's the reason. 2-rep, just because I didn't want this to be treated as a maximum. And then it did allow us to get rid of the touch and go, which I think everyone can agree is a positive.
Oh yeah, I didn't like the touch and go.
I didn't like
touch and go is most people that do touch and go, their first rep is their hardest rep.
Mm-hmm.
And then they really make the most out of the fact that you've allowed touch and go and almost slam the weight down. And then there's a lot of variety. Like you can have rubber plates or even just one rubber plate either side on a rubber surface and you will get a bounce. And I've seen some videos where it was literally slammed down and that rebound kind of brought it back up. But, you know, people will always work around the rules the best that they can. So, and I would as well. So I get it.
Go back to that 90 hours. You know what touch and go allows me to do? It allows me to count.
Yeah.
And not worry too much about, you know, the rest. So, you know, yeah.
If farmers hold, we can really restrict the time length of these videos.
Yeah. I mean, the farmers, they're going to have to measure some things ahead of time. But yeah, we're trying to make it easier on the athletes.
I think it's probably a much easier online qualifier to record, especially if you don't have training partners and stuff like that. You don't having someone kind of follow you on a farmer's walk and then pick the weights up, put them on a scale. It's much nicer if you're not having so much movement involved. So I totally understand that. Another
thing we are trying to do in the future is if we do have events that have more custom equipment, like the stone that we did for the European Championships, having things where a gym can almost register their equipment with us so that, you know, 10 people at that gym don't have to go through that extra length of the process. We can go and show, hey, I'm at this gym and we have a record of those types of things, like their platform height, for example. Super easy thing that, and I always liked it when, for the European Championships, I would recognize certain gyms and you just know that they're doing it the right way because you've gone through 1 or 2 athletes, everyone gets weighed, everyone gets measured. You're like, yep, that's the same platform. Yep, you know, it can go a little bit faster there.
No, absolutely. So that's the qualifier. And if anyone out there wants to get themselves to OSG, potentially to World's Strongest Man, or challenging for a world title in your category, head over to Official Strongman Games. Make sure you get registered on there, and you have till the end of August.
Yep.
End of August to upload your numbers. And I'll let Lynn explain how many people will qualify from this. I guess top 10 definitely, and then it depends.
Correct. So instead of saying top 20, it's much easier for us to say top 10, because some of those 10 we find are already qualified and they're doing it for the love of the game, as well as, just being a part of it. And it allows us the ability that if we want to go past 10, we can. Whereas if we just say top 20, we're guaranteeing it. And sometimes, not so much anymore, but in the beginning, sometimes when you start to get near 20 in a division, the caliber just is a little bit lower, and we'd much rather have the right to stop at whatever we want. We guarantee the top 10, and if any of those top 10 are already qualified, going past that, so 10 new people from the online qualifier per division. But we have every year gone a little bit further, just because we've been impressed, or like the difference between 10th place and 11, 12, and 13 was like a pound. It's like, okay, you guys are all basically tied. Let's be fair.
Cool. So you're just you're allowing that flexibility. That's good. But obviously top 10 is guaranteed.
Correct.
Cool. Right. Qualifiers done. Make sure you guys head over to Official Strongman and get yourself registered. Get your opportunity to get to a World Championships. Talking about the Official Strongman Games World Championships, you released the events literally a few days ago.
Yes, it's pretty exciting when you do it. It's like it's out there in the wild, and now you just know you're going to hear all the feedback.
I'm sure you get a lot of feedback. I was trying to just let you have some space and not kind of bombard you, but I saw the events, and you know what? I went and had a training session today, and it's the most motivated I've felt in a long time. So
good.
Looking forward to coming and seeing what I can do. Let's go through the events. So you're starting off with an overhead medley. Now, I checked the website before we went online together, and I see you've actually uploaded the implements that will be used for the overhead medley.
Correct. So a few people know I try to have, a world championship. I want it to be a test. One of the things I love about Strongman is we've got like 25 events to choose from, realistically. And if you start changing reps and whatnot, it could be infinite number of variety. I think it would get kind of boring if we always had, log, yoke, deadlift, and all this. But we would also see the same athletes start to specialize and start to just be repeat winners, where I really do like to take advantage of that varied amount of events. And I remember telling a few people that, it's like there's one press that I haven't done yet at the Official Strongman Games, and it was the block press. But I knew that I couldn't do block press for max. I couldn't do block press for reps. It's a little bit of a safety thing. I think it's an amazing test of pure strength, but I knew it needed to be at the end so that they do one rep and they hold it at the end, because they don't have to rush to another implement. They're holding it for photos, and it's going to be really cool. So then I kind of built the event on that, and I'm really excited. I've been kind of watching from afar Standard Submit in Australia. They make terrific equipment, first of all. And, being able to partner with them on a press medley where we were able to bounce some ideas off of each other and, really come up with something that I think will be a fun test for everyone. And so we're going to have 4 implements, and it's going to showcase some of Standard Submit's equipment, which, obviously gives some benefit.
Equipment's brilliant, by the way, if you've not seen it.
Yeah. So we're going to start with barbell with wagon wheels. And I thought about axle, of course, but I'll jump around a little bit. One of the pieces of feedback I've received year over year is that on the overhead events, we have a little bit higher number of zeros than the deadlift, because a lot of times the deadlift is a ladder or just perceived as lower percentage wise. By having 4 implements, it allows me to kind of go easiest to hardest. Sure. And start to really have something that's going to be an exciting test for all the great pressers out there, but not something that is going to discourage everyone who isn't a great presser right out of the gate. Yeah. So starting with barbell with wagon wheels, I'll be honest, we kind of wanted to do a circus barbell. Feasibly, it just wasn't. With 12 divisions and the number of athletes, some of the things are going to take a while for us to get. But so
yes, this is going to be like 4 at a time or something like that.
Yeah. So you can imagine it's 16 implements on the field. So it's a lot of equipment, but we're going to start with the barbell first, and that's really going to allow people to clean any way they'd like. We really see that as something where it can still be heavy, but we're not going to have some of the concerns out there with an axle around biceps or shoulders and things like that for the clean. I'm really excited that that's going to be heavy enough, but not as daunting for people.
So here's a question: How heavy? We're not allowed to know that just
yet. Weights aren't released yet, but remember, I've got a lot of data about to come in at the end of August on what people's pressing is. And I have a feeling a lot of them are going to choose a barbell. And we'll go and see, but that's going to help affect. So, and of course, if I gave some divisions information, but not others, you're already getting enough of a sneak preview, Laws. We don't need to give you too much more here. So, but
I get no special treatment, guys, just so you know. Lynn is a man that keeps it all to himself.
Yeah, technically you have the time of this recording until it goes out ahead of others. But so in general, though, the weights are going to increase, as well as the difficulty of the implement, I believe, will increase. I really want something where it showcases the best pressers by them being alone doing that block press. So
the difficulty in implement only increases if it depending on what you're strong and what you're weak at.
Yes. For example, split jerks. I haven't seen too many people split jerk a block.
No. It's, it'd be a brave person to split jerk a block, to be fair.
I'm actually pretty good at block. I can push press a block, so I can actually get leg drive, where I know a lot of people, it turns into almost a strict press for them. So we're going to see some.
Some questions then. Like, is it going to be a standard block that is going to be the same for every class, or are they going to be smaller for the lightweight categories and bigger for the bigger athletes?
Well, how about we get to block as the 4th implement, and we'll just.
So you're going to jump ahead, see? You're talking about the block, and I got all excited.
I know.
I missed out on an event I actually really, really enjoy as well, or used to.
And you're going to have to do some things first. So yeah, after the barbell, we're going to go to a classic, so a circus dumbbell. Specifically, I chose photos from the standard submit equipment to show that, yes, these are going to be cylindrical. They're not going to be the monster dumbbells that we used last year, just so that people are aware in their own training. I know it does affect technique slightly.
More like a sear dumbbell type.
No, cylindrical, not globe. So this is going to be just like the photo, with caps on the side, that kind of thing. They're excellent dumbbells, but they're just different than what we used last year.
Was it the Rogue ones you used last year?
They're very similar. It was actually made by Aaron West.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So after the circus dumbbell, we have another cool implement. I wanted to do a safe press, that wobbly press that everyone sees on Old School World's Strongest Man. And a lot of people do that with the yoke. What we have found is that a little bit dangerous when it comes crashing down.
Wear a gum shield.
Yeah. Well, Stand or Submit actually solved that. They have a very unique yoke that's designed for pressing, and it's got a curved bottom. The weight plates are right at the bottom, so it gets that maximum amount of swing. But also, when you go to press it, it'll rock forward. When it comes down, it's going to be able to absorb that without smacking you in the face. So it's a safety concern, but it is a yoke that is designed for pressing. And it's really cool. I'm excited to see it.
Awesome.
And then after that, we do have the block. One thing, hinting at your question around the block, circus dumbbell, we're going to have 10-inch for women, 12-inch for men.
Okay.
So will be a size different there.
Okay, cool. Safe lift, is that going to be adjustable in height?
It has to be.
I think I was going to, with the range of people you're going to have there.
If I'm going from 5 foot tall to 6'10", I've got to. So yeah, we're going to end up having heights for all the athletes. It would have been much easier on me if I just did a very simple event, but I love Strongman. I love all the events, and so the team that's resetting the equipment's going to have a little bit more work to do, but we're also kind of excited to just slow the pace down a little bit. Last year was a little frantic. You commentated and just kept commentating. I got to give kudos to you. That was 2 long days. But so we're going to take advantage of some of that time.
Cool.
The block press, same thing. We recognize that a 5-foot woman versus 6'10" man, they're going to be different. The women are going to have a block that is designed a little bit smaller, and then the men will have a larger block.
Okay.
I don't know what all the dimensions are in particular, but just know that we're taking body type into account there. And the women will just have something that's not quite as wide, and that'll allow them to hit those heavier weights and just be safer. Like I said, with the block, it is a single rep. It is at the very end. You don't need to rush at any point. We're going to be looking for great lockouts with all of this, and I'm just hoping people will take advantage of. That's the last implement. Just hold it. Get those photos, get the video time, celebrate a little bit with us, and be safe.
So time's taken when the referee says down, but you're happy to hold it up there and show the world what you've done.
Absolutely. And we've got a lot of implements. We talk about the teeth with the safe yoke, block press. I've seen so many videos of people just going, and it goes behind them, everything else. And all I would say is you don't need to rush. Once this one's done, you're done. So just, think about that stability. I don't want to see a bunch of people, as they're doing training videos, rushing those lockouts. It's like, no, hold it, because we're going to expect you to hold it. No walking around still with it.
Cool. Well, awesome first event. Then we move on to the Sticks and Stones carry event.
I'm super excited about
this. Sounds interesting.
So it's another one of those where, you think about the moving events that we've tested. And then I also think about, how have we been challenging people's grip in the official Strongman games over the years. So I wanted to do a timber frame right out of the gate. And Sticks and Stones is a great, sole proprietorship, small business. What an awesome human being David is. And he is going to be making some great equipment. And I kind of added on to the list for him and said, wouldn't it be great if we could do a traditional Scottish carrying stones, similar to the nickel stones, but using something like the Cerberus Denny handles that most people can kind of have access to in training. And instead of just having plate weight, have an actual stone on there as well. And he's one of the few people in the world that I think I could have challenged this with and had success. He's created his own replica of the Husafell stone in the past. Yeah. And so he happens to know a lot about these traditional carrying stones. And he's going to be making us identical sets of stones that actually go right over top of the Denny handles. And if we need to add weight, we'll add plates underneath, but the stone is bashing into your legs. I mean, it's all of the challenge of the nickel stones or the carrying stones that people may or may not have ever tried.
It's an interesting way you've put these together, because you've kind of done it for speed. And normally the nickels or the Dinny stones, it's about distance or holding them for time. So to move quickly with these is going to really bash into a lot of people's legs. That's going to be a nasty event.
I visualized watching four lanes of a timber frame or frame carry, which you see people zipping on by. It's tremendous weight, but somehow they move so fast. Evan Singleton or Novikov. It's like, wow. And then realizing what I really want to see is the final 30 to 40 seconds of 4 lanes of people just staggering forward and seeing who's able to have the grip as well as just the mental fortitude to keep going. And so, the stone portion is at the end, because I want that ending, where you're taking a look at it. I don't think everyone's going to finish. That is not the plan.
I can guarantee everyone won't finish. That's going to be a nasty event. I mean, knowing you do make official strongman pretty heavy. I should imagine the frame is going to be a challenge in itself for a lot of people.
Yep.
And those stones are going to be an absolute nightmare. But that's why you are the thing is, you're like this lovable evil genius. Very lovely guy, but your head has always got these nasty thoughts going through it.
We're going to do some testing. There's a chance I might reduce some of the distance, but realistically, I know that a lot of these athletes, you look at Giants Live with the frame carry, that's sometimes just a 10-second event. That gives a good 45 seconds for them to get over and then have a whole nother challenge. And so I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch. And I'm always trying to give opportunity to challenge yourself at an event that you might not be able to do anywhere else. So these are going to be beautiful timber frames, similar to Giants Live, made out of wood. They're going to be awesome looking. And then the fact that it's stones, not just plate weight for the carry back. I think no matter what, people will be excited with the photos, the video, and the fact that they did it.
A couple of questions for the frame.
Yeah.
Are they going to be different frames for the different weight classes, or is it going to be the same frame for everyone?
So this is where the genius of working with a skilled craftsman like David at Sticks and Stones is. I challenged him with a frame that's around 350 empty, but then I can bring on another section on top of it to make a bigger men's heavier frame. So the
only reason I ask is width could be an issue depending on size of athletes. So you imagine some of those big heavyweights, they can hold quite wide.
Yeah.
Some of the under 64 kilo women, you don't want them holding a frame out like that.
We're going to do our due diligence and test everything.
Likewise, you don't want the big guys cramped in like this either.
It is going to be the same width frame. It's going to get taller as we go heavier. So it's going to look more massive as we go heavier, not just plate weight. But yes, we're looking at, what is the minimum height that we're going to be establishing there, where I go back to that 5 foot tall female trying to pick it. She needs to be able to get it off the ground. That's not fair if, she's barely touching. And at the same token, I don't want it so incredibly low that it's just another deadlift event as opposed to the frame carry. So one of the challenges with releasing anything before, or anything new, I should say, we can test all this other stuff, but we're making some new equipment here. It's going to go through testing. I hope people will just be reasonable with us on the fact that we might, through testing, change the weight.
I think people have to be. You're doing strongman. You've got to be ready for changes. We do our best not to have that happening these days. But I've said many times, events have changed last minute. I'm just trying to think logically because the great thing, and it's a real challenge for you, but the great thing is you have such a variety of athletes that compete at OSG. And my only concern and this is a genuine concern, is Kira Rickson, for instance, compared to Tom Stoltman. That wingspan is completely different. So when you're gripping something, when your kind of arm is straight down, it's very different to having it out to the side of you. If there's space, it becomes much harder because the angle that you're trying to get your hand at changes. So that is just something that I think in testing needs to be kind of addressed.
Yeah, certainly. And, you know, I've seen examples where frames have handles that are kind of adjusting, you know, things like that. I would say, though, I have a set of frames that I've used in competition for 10 years, and they've worked well for female competitors, as well as when we load it to 800 plus pounds. It's a more challenging frame. 2017, we had a frame carry as part of the official Strongman games. And that particular frame, so we used two different frames. We had one for women, one for men. The men's frame, I think, had like a 20-inch pick. So it was an easy frame. And so you could go super heavy. This will not be an easy frame because it's going to be lower for a lot of the heavyweights than they might be used to, because it is going to accommodate the female athletes.
Okay, cool. Well, that will be day one done.
Yeah.
And we move on to day two, starting with a deadlift ladder, 5 deadlifts.
Oh yeah. I love the deadlift ladder. I've enjoyed the intensity. I've enjoyed the race component. And when we added the 5th bar, especially, you know, to be determined whether we choose to use the mammoth bar or a different bar, but, you know, just the spectacle of seeing that much whip and those many bumper blades, it's a great finisher. And anything where you can see a field of athletes and someone is coming ahead and it's all eyes on them for a moment, the cheering it's such a great event. I really do love it. I think it's a great test. I do think I'm going to listen to feedback I've heard over the years, which is just, you know, there are some divisions where it's for speed. And when I originally kind of came up with the deadlift ladder for OSG in 2019, I think it was, how do I do a max deadlift? And so there are some divisions that I think I'm going to just frankly increase the weight because I know that they can do it. And, you know, hate to say it, Laws, but when I see Mark Felix and Jerry Pritchett both choose no straps and run, that tells me that maybe there's a little bit of wiggle room there, because they're not getting that same effect that I want, where, you know, you see this person slow down and this person didn't. Oh my God, you know, that all eyes on them.
Yeah, and like you say, I mean, the standard's so high now.
Oh yeah.
And I guess this is your challenge at OSG. You are, like we said at the start, there is a great variety in the standard. In every class, you got some, you know, incredible athletes in every single class. You get people that are happy to be there in every single class. And a medley allows you to put that easier first lift in and really hard last lift. So you can have the whole range of, okay, a couple of guys might only get 2. Yeah. A couple of people are looking to be fast on 3. A couple of people think they can get 4. And then you've got the really strong guys. They might pace themselves, but they know they can get that 5th one. So you get a whole variety of outcomes, and it makes it exciting.
I'm going to go ahead and say, I think it's gotten so competitive to earn an invite that the number of people that are just there to have fun and aren't competitive really isn't a thing anymore. I think for deadlift and overhead specifically, what you have is you have pressers and pullers. And I guarantee that the person who is cheering the loudest on that first day one event with pressing might be struggling a little bit on the deadlift just because that's the nature. Not everyone's perfectly
absolutely balanced. And that's the great thing with Strongman is we're all good at different things.
Yeah. And so I don't think there's really going to be that many people who are, you're like, they didn't belong there.
I guess the way I put that was wrong, but the fact remains the same, that in every event you have people that are really good and you'll have people that will struggle. And on another event, it could be completely opposite, you know, like you say. But I think when you've got those options of making that last one hard, the first one a little bit more comfortable so that we don't have so many zeros, it's a nice option to have in there rather than just like a really heavy deadlift for reps where half the field fail.
Correct. And historically speaking, some of the divisions with the weights I've chosen for overhead have experienced that larger than I would like percentage of zeros. I would say with the deadlift ladder, there's been fewer 1 reps than maybe I actually should have. I should have more people that struggle to get that second rep. It shouldn't be a given that you get second or third. Sure. It should absolutely be something you earn every single rep going up, so that we can
expect this deadlift ladder to be tough.
I absolutely think that this is going to be a great test for those massive pullers. And the whole experience I want is, if you make it to the end, all eyes are on you at that point, and the crowd should be cheering with you.
Good stuff. Sounds good. Now we're moving on to,
I know what you're going to go to.
The GORUCK Survival Challenge.
Yeah.
What the hell have you got going on here?
So GORUCK is a wonderful organization, and I've got some good friends that are a part of the organization. And one of the things that I really am pretty inspired by is they have a similar sense of community to Strongman. Maybe you can call it some shared suffering. We're all a little crazy, things like that. But community really matters to them. And they want to get into some of that strength space, not just endurance. And so they've got a few products that are still in the works. But we kind of discussed, what do you mean get into the strength space and whatnot? So the GORUCK Survival Challenge is my typical fitness test. In the past, it's been the death medley or whatnot. I believe the strongman absolutely should not be just static monsters. I believe that it has a sense of fitness in there, and this is always going to have a test in the qualifiers, or the semifinals, I should say. There will always be that lung burner, if you will. Still we're talking 60 to 90 seconds. Come on, people, right? But it is still going to be a better fitness test than a lot of the other things. And what kind of caught me was that they created a sand medicine ball, and it's a spherical sandbag, like an Atlas stone, if it was a tight sandbag. But they only went to 100 pounds. And I kind of jokingly said, well, how about 300? Do you think we could go to a full 20-inch diameter and tightly pack this sandbag? And they said, we can do whatever you'd like. And I love to hear that. So this is similar to a death medley. We're going to use all GORUCK equipment on this. So we're going to try out their sand medicine ball strongman style. So it's going to go heavy. I was going to use, my high temp Husafels, but they also have a sandbag Husafel shape, like the Tombstone carry, that they haven't yet released on their website. And so they're going to make custom, sandbags for that as well. So I think we had that shape. I've seen that shape in a couple of things. I think Rogue has produced a Tombstone. Did we have that at World's Strongest Man this year? I know they had a larger sandbag.
They had a large sandbag. I know that at Rogue they had the Husafel type sandbag.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing those 2 sandbags. We're going to load them into a sled of some kind. It's a little bit to be determined. I'm actually trying to see whether I can potentially get rubber flooring for the entire field, in which case like a drag is not going to be feasible. And in that case, it would turn into maybe a wheelbarrow or a push of some kind, that kind of thing. But we're going to see. And then, of course, the real kicker is we're going to go ahead and we're going to have some ruckers on us, the backpacks. And I was really impressed with these things when I saw them in person at the Arnold. And they've got it's about the most efficient way to carry weight on your back and still feel like it's not awkward. I don't know if you've ever gone camping and whatnot, and you buy a high-end camping backpack that has that hip belt. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, I don't feel it pulling down. It's not like, oh my God, this is so heavy. It's transferred onto your body appropriately. So we're going to be doing that, and I'm pretty excited because it's one of those where, you know, I've heard as you know, a heavier guy, well, try that with 100 pounds on your back. And yeah, we're going to be able to do that. You know, why not? So we're going to have everywhere from, you know, a 43-pound edition for the lightweight ladies all the way to 119 additional pounds.
190?
19.
Okay.
So 120. So was that 55? 55 kilo.
I'm glad I've lost weight.
Because it would have been like,
it would just be like what I was like before.
So we've done some testing with that, and you know, we're still. What I love though is we've got support from GORUCK as a partner. They want to join our community. They want to make products that make sense for our community. They're developing shoes that are designed for things like yoke carries and these heavyweight compression. Specifically to make it so that you know, people don't have to hurt so bad when they do these long carries or weighted carries, and they're really trying to adapt this to the needs. So when I go and you know, I tested the ruckers out on some people that are a little bit larger than I am, and you know, we're talking about, can we have the hip belt longer and maybe just longer on one side so that the buckle is off to the side so that it doesn't interfere with the actions that you're doing. But it's going to be a great test. And I think it does change the dynamic where all of a sudden, you know, I don't know how many people have really trained with adding weight to themselves as they do it. So maybe the implements end up being the same or a little bit lighter, but just the fact that I added weight to you, what does that do for the total event?
It's a very interesting event, and like I'm one of those athletes that I like to know the events, and then when the events come through, I'm like, okay, this is the events, this is what I'm going to train for. You know, you're going to get some people say, well, it's supposed to be strongman, it's not CrossFit.
Yeah, you'll never see CrossFit with a 120-pound backpack.
I don't know. Mitch Hooper's been doing some CrossFit recently, and he'd probably like the idea of this. I think this is going to be a fun challenge. I think it's going to be nasty. I'm actually quite looking forward to a different type of event. It's something completely new for all of us. So I think that's going to be exciting. And I think it's great that you're bringing these different companies in that could potentially help the sport get bigger and push more money into the sport. And I totally appreciate one of the reasons that you're doing it is for things like that. So we can show that our sport can go to other areas, because the fact that CrossFit now implements a lot of strongman kit is going to bring more money into the sport. We see the log for max at the CrossFit Games, the Rogue Invitational last year. We see the Sandbag to shoulder, the flips they do with, is it the pig? I think they call it. You know, we are seeing a lot more strongman events in CrossFit. So you're trying to bring a bit of a heavy CrossFit element to strongman with this.
I mean, in the end, it's still 60 to 90 seconds. You know, I've had over, you know, I've been competing since 2006. So 17 years of telling people what strongman is to people who don't know. And I've found that explaining that it's similar to CrossFit, but in a different time domain. And so it allows us to be heavier. So the fact that it's 60 to 90 seconds, saying that it's CrossFit, it's like, oh yeah, well, what would a CrossFitter do 60 to 90 seconds? They would do maximal effort and it would be heavier. You know, that is one thing. We're never going to do a 5K. We're never going to end up doing burpees, you know, with a vest on and things like that. You know, it's not CrossFit. But if we can have a challenge that is affecting your general just strength and physical capability, and like I said, I don't think I have ever personally trained with adding weight to me. And so I think this is going to be a new challenge to strongman who are frankly used to being the big guy who says, oh, well, you should try it with 100 pounds on your back. Well, we're going to see some 80 kilogram athletes showing some videos of 100 pounds on their back, and they're still running. I guarantee it.
Yeah, like, to be fair, I've used a lot of kind of weighted vests in training in the past, and it's a completely different ballgame. It makes it much more challenging, and it will throw people off completely.
And once again, this isn't a vest, so it doesn't have any weight in the front, so it's not going to affect arm length. It's all in the back, but because it's well designed and with the hip belt and across the chest, it just, you feel heavier. I'll be honest, if you really do a triple extension, you beware. But
that's a genuine concern, I should imagine, for a lot of people.
I think
when they're fresh, it won't be such an issue.
Yeah.
When they get to the second or third implement, that's when it's going to be an issue.
I bet you people will try it. And
although if it's a drag, it might actually help.
Yeah.
So it's I'm sure it's going to be a fun one. I say it's going to be fun. We're all going to be dead at the end of it. You're going to have a lot of exhausted strong men and strong women.
Oxygen on hand, yes.
Luckily, it is the last event for that day, and we've got time to recover. Ready for event number 5 on the final day. Sandbag toss, 6 sandbags. You've done this one before?
Yes. So just to touch on the fact that it is the last event of the semifinals, if you will. That's by design. You're going to give it your all, and it is going to be it's going to be a great event to watch, and there's going to be a lot of emotions from people when they finish that event. I'm excited to be there to kind of watch the celebrations as well as just the general potentially just fatigue, and it's like, oh, thank God I'm done. So
one thing I love about the way you run this competition as well is, even though you do have this qualifying system to make the final, because I believe the final is just the top 10.
Yes.
I've seen that done in other comps, but they start again from 0.
Yeah.
You guys don't do that, which then, if it was about just qualifying for the top 10, people could start taking it easy on the GORUCK survival challenge. But the way you do it, you just remove everyone's points as if it was starting from, as if the competition started with just the 10 athletes in.
Correct. And that's a difference from World's Strongest Man in the heat system, where, if you know that you're first or second, you can kind of maybe let off the gas a little bit. So we get questions every year on how do we do it? How do you make the scores? And we found that the fairest thing is, once you know who the top 10 are based off of, say, 30 athletes, then you remove the 20 that didn't make it and rescore it like a competition with those 10 athletes. Points can change, because if you had a really good or a really bad event, that may have been worth more or hurt more before than it does in a top 10 situation. But we've been doing it since the beginning of OSG, and honestly, I think it is the best way to transition from a semifinals to a finals.
I absolutely agree. I think it is a fantastic way that you do it, and it doesn't allow athletes to take their foot off the gas. They have to keep pushing on every single event. That's the semifinals done with. You got just 2 events this year in the final.
Yeah, so I pushed for the third one last year, which couldn't have been a worse year to choose for having a third event in the finals, because of the Viking press, as an example. A lot of people, we did not allow jerks on the Viking press, and that does kind of change the test for overhead. And so I liked the thought of having circus dumbbell, a very technical overhead, paired with Viking press, which was a little bit more of a brute force in my opinion. And so I was trying to push for that. This year, we really want to showcase the top 10 more. we do a pretty good job of showcasing, the podium, the winners, things like that. But honestly, making top 10, making the finals at OSG should absolutely be something that is celebrated. You should have some time in the limelight. And so we purposely had discussions around, how do we have some more interviews? How do we have a little bit more your moment, and build in time for exceptional performances, to just take the time and speak with them about it. And the finals is a great chance for that. So we're doing just the 2 events. Sandbag Toss, as you mentioned, I've done before, and we're doing this year. One of the things, I can't be biased on this one. It literally is one of the events I've never figured out. I've got great triple extension and other things, but I'm that guy that sends the bag forward, and I hate the event so much.
It's one of those events that you could do 10 times in a competition and have 10 different results.
Yeah. But when you do it just head to head, and visually you give the space and a proper setup for it, we had so many shares, and it became so exciting. Just as a small criticism of World's Strongest Man, when you do it one athlete at a time, it was hard to know what's a little bit faster than the other. Where head to head, it was beautiful. And if you went back to 2018, we had Sandbag Toss when it first kind of debuted, but I had 5 lanes. That was chaos. You didn't know what was going on. Head to head ended up being this beautiful synchronized lifting, and then it's like, oh my God, one person messed up, or oh my God, this one went over, that didn't, and it kind of took your breath away. And so that's the experience that I was trying to get. We also got videos from that event were absolutely shared more than others. I
think as a visual, it's an awesome event.
It really, you hold your breath when you're doing it. It's great. So I'm trying to recreate that experience, because as far as a fan goes, I think that'll take advantage of the Coliseum space really well. And it's a great test for that head-to-head.
Brilliant. And then we finish off, as always, with the Atlas Stones. 6 stones at this competition. Is it 6 stones?
Yeah. 6 stones, when you're making platforms, it's hard to make a 5 platform with appropriate width for larger humans. And so since I custom built these, I just did 3 and 3. So it's been 6 because of that decision way back in the day. I love Atlas stones. I really did think about not having stones as the finale and the final, but it also creates those kind of moments where in a head-to-head scenario, it's the last deciding factor, seeing them come down. There's so much excitement, and I think the crowd really gets around those athletes. A lot of us got into Strongman around stones. At least I know that was a big thing for me. The only real thing to change, in my opinion, was we've decided that the 80 kilogram men should not have the raised platform where I raise it 6 full inches, because it seemed like we were testing something different for them than the other divisions. And so the 80 kilogram is going to be just a little bit safer. For people that don't know, that very first platform is 60 inches, and it goes down by 2 inches each one. So a lot of those, the last platform, people think, oh, that's the low one. That's higher than a lot of people train at still. And so that's the only thing that we're like, okay, we need to make this adjustment. But no, I think it's a great way to finish. I love, as an athlete myself, I love that time where you're just removing tacky around a trash bin with all the other athletes. And, win, lose, or draw, you guys are just like, you're done and you're together. So I love that experience.
Cool. Yeah, it's a really good, fun-looking set of events. I'm sure with every competition you do, I'm sure you get lots of complaints and lots of people that love the events, because we all have our favorite events as athletes that we want in a competition. Unfortunately, with Strongman, you don't get to choose. And that's one of the beauties of it. Every year, you're going to have different events at competition. And that's why when you look at people that can come back to these shows and win again and again and again, they do end up going down as the greats.
Yeah.
But you're testing lots of different elements, lots of a couple of new things in there that are going to be fun to try. We've already mentioned where people can qualify for official Strongman games on the website. Is there anything else you wanted to get across on this chat before we finish? Because you and me can talk.
I know that we can talk forever. What I would say to people is, events like the car walk are not gone. It's just to keep things unique.
Basically, Lynn said to me, you can't just come back for one show, so you don't get the car walk this year.
Absolutely. That's what it really came down to. Is I'm trying to do a 2-year deal with Laws as a competitor. No, but being honest, if we did the car walk every single year, it would lose some of the appeal. Plus, it's testing a yoke, and we would lose the test of a frame. And so there are events that people would love to have. I think that we try our best to hit a lot of them, and things like press medleys give us an opportunity to kind of showcase multiple things. But this is not all about finding that perfect recipe for just one event and it's going to stay the same forever. I mean, as we found even with Giants Live, when the events change, all of a sudden it's like, ooh, well, now the forecasting of who's going to win is a little different than, people who would have been favorites. So we want it to be new and exciting every year. I know that there's some favorite events out there that might go missing. The Atlas Stone Series may not be there every single year. And, that's going to be just fine. We had Power Stairs in 2019 as the finale. Totally fine. So I would just say this isn't about any one year. It's about Strongman being, this great test of, are you capable of basically anything? Are we superhumans?
I'm sure it's going to be an amazing show. I know the work that you put into this is never ending. To be quite honest, you have you're a man with many hats when it comes to this. You've got to do so many jobs, and I know I'll just say for myself, who's been involved in the sport, but for every single athlete that has been to OSG and that's going to come this year, we all thank you for what you do. I will look forward to seeing lots of people at the contest. I went and won my qualifier, so I don't need to do the official online qualifier, which is nice.
Lucky man.
But yeah, it's going to be an amazing show. If people have questions, are they okay to comment below and maybe you can respond to them at some point?
100%. So, one of the questions, always is, how do I compete? The website itself lists the online qualifier rules and everything, and also has a competitions page where there's competitions all over the world, like the one that you competed in, where it does give an opportunity for an athlete to earn their invite at a competition, which, we'd all love to earn our invite at a competition, feasibly with a worldwide, competition like we're doing. It's just not there yet. And I think the online gives the ability so that if someone has a wedding that we can, we got 2 months. You're removing the excuses. Yeah. So ask your questions. If it comes down to weights, just realize that's going to take a little bit of time. And remember that as we test things, we will adapt. And whenever you do new events, it requires more testing and potentially more adapting than if we just did the same old.
Well said. Lynn, thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy man. It's been a pleasure to chat with you as always, and we'll look forward to seeing you in December.
You may personally see me a little bit sooner at the OSG European Championship.
I'll look forward to that. But guys, I hope you've enjoyed our chat with Lynn Morehouse, who is the main man behind Official Strongman Games. And he's a man that puts a lot of work in. So I know most of you that compete know him, but if you don't, he is the man that makes this happen. It's a whole team, and a great team that you've got, by the way. I don't want to sort of miss anyone out, but you do have a great team that work around it. But you're the man pulling the strings and non-stop work all year to make this a huge event, and it's getting bigger and better every single year. So if you haven't qualified, get yourself in the official Strongman Games website, upload your weights on there. Good luck to everyone, and we will see you in December. Take care.